Tired of jumping through hoops to buy Bitcoin? Frustrated with endless paperwork and invasive identity checks? Introducing Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club's loan program. No KYC required. Say goodbye to the hassle and hello to freedom. Borrow up to $250,000 at as little as 7% interest. Join our community and take control of your financial future. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where privacy meets opportunity. Connect with like-minded individuals and grow together. Visit us today and unlock your $250,000 Bitcoin loan. Your journey to financial freedom starts here.
Yeah, play the ad. All right, we're live. Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. I'm Dr. J, and it's really good to be back home for a change. I've been traveling all around the world and getting our deals done from Panama to El Salvador. It's just been a fun week. But what an interesting week it has been for Bitcoin. 5 days tell you almost more about the human condition than about all the big candlesticks that are going on. So we saw a fresh all-time high, just a smidgen over $124,000 before it's dropped back to that lazy 121 or so. To the casual observer, it's just a chart, but what we are watching is a rich tapestry of a number of different forces unleashing and unfolding, creating, what is causing this all-time high to happen. And of course, there's a broader market sentiment. We're starting to see money move to ETH, to Sol, to some of the alts, and that is consistent with the kind of price movements we have seen in the past. So let's dig into just a little bit of what is causing. It feels good to try to understand. We've been predicting these type of movements. Ben has been doing it for a long time. I've been talking about it. Sherpa's been talking about it. We're seeing it on the charts. We're seeing it on macroeconomic conditions. The biggest of which is, in spite of this clown, Jerome Powell, the Fed has all but hung up a sign, a blinking big sign, which says rate cuts coming. All right. So that neon light sign is already on. And because of that, the markets are already giddy with the prospect of easy money. Easy money is starting to flow again. And if you look at the stocks, they're at an all-time high. The liquidity is starting to flow. And what happens when the liquidity flows is Bitcoin rises. It's a correlation as old as modern day fiat, right? But just Fed cutting the rates, or at the prospect of it, easy liquidity, driving up Bitcoin, actually reducing the volatility. It's just one part of a bigger picture. What we're also seeing, and I'm going to give you these kind of macro trend lines so you guys can keep an eye on these things yourself, right? So keep an eye on that Fed cut. And of course, as they say, buy the rumor, sell the news. So, even though the Fed cut has not happened yet, it's already starting to manifest itself in the price movements that we're seeing. Also, Bitcoin ETFs have been on a steady rise. It's starting to draw capital from pension funds, family offices, sovereign funds. What are those? Those are huge pools of money. Huge pools of money. The same pools of money that swore that they were never going to buy Bitcoin even 5 years ago, quietly, methodically, deliberately, they're buying Bitcoin, just as we predicted. So these ETFs are going to continue to siphon larger and larger amounts of money from these big pools, liquidity pools. These are massive liquidity pools. I mean, once pension gets into something, folks, game over. I mean, there's just too much liquidity out there for us to be oblivious of the implications of it. Some of these family offices, massive, right? And they're going to become that sort of the early adopters. I'm going to talk more about that in just a second, because where are we on that adoption cycle matters, and it matters to you. And that's my second part of the conversation. But I want to go through some of the macro factors still. And then there's the cultural sort of aspect that I look at, which I would encourage you to see. You know, in the Roaring '20s, they had something called a hemline index, where the hemline of your skirt could tell you the economic conditions. So when the bull markets were happening, the skirts were shorter, and when it got war and depression, you know, full length skirts were in vogue. So there was this joke, or not a joke, but basically a spurious correlation perhaps, called the hemline index, and people could tell the state of the mind of the FOMO, of the retail mindset, by looking at the hemline. So that was the theory. So I asked myself this morning, you know, what is that hemline index in today's world? And that hemline index in today's world is the social media sentiment. If you start looking at social media sentiment, and there are many factors to look at, you will see that there are certain key parameters that are starting to increase. These are all kind of reading the tea leaves, right? It's reading the tea leaves. We know Bitcoin's up. We know it's going to continue to go up. We're starting to gauge why people are doing what they're doing. So if I looked at the oldest of the barometers in digital and social media, I look at App Store rankings. What am I finding? I went and looked at Coinbase. The Coinbase's App Store ranking on iOS is 65% above where it was before. What does that tell me? That's telling me that people are going to Coinbase. They're downloading Coinbase. They don't know Exodus Wallet yet. They're early in that in that learning cycle. Most of my viewers here are already crypto gurus compared to them. You guys have bought Bitcoin. You all know how to use a wallet. You all have your self-custody. Some of you have Trezors and cold storage. So most of you probably have taken your coins off of the exchange supported wallets, right? But the newbies that are just getting into the game, they're doing their Google searches and they're going to Coinbase and they're downloading wallets. And I'm seeing a 65% increase in their ranking. You can look at the ranking of any software download, right? So I look at things like that, which give me an indication of the hemline index. How short is the skirt? It's pretty darn short right now. It's looking good. All right. So Coinbase is doing great, right? And then I did a search on Google searches, right? So what am I finding? Ethereum, the word Ethereum, the word altcoins, boom, spiking through the roof. Look at those charts. Go yourself and look at it. So what's starting to happen is the general public, the retail FOMO that we have been predicting for a while, is starting to happen. Retail is starting downloading. Retail is starting to search for ETH. They're hearing this in the news. They are searching for altcoins, and we are seeing 7, 8, 10%. I was looking at it, late last night. I mean, the altcoins are doing great, So the party has started. The champagne is nowhere close to running dry yet. We're just starting off here, folks. And beneath all of this sort of retail movement that we are starting to see is that old, what is called the M2 money supply, the bloodstream of the economy. Some of you know whenever M2 accelerates, Bitcoin kind of follows that price, right? And the moment that nice bloodstream from the M2 shows up, the vampires show up at sunset. right? All these little liquidity pools that are sitting around dormant, wondering whether we should buy more Nvidia or Cisco or IBM or whatever it is. Suddenly they wake up and they look around and they say, "Oh, this thing called Bitcoin," and to Bitcoin they get sucked because the big institutions are keeping their eyes on the M2 and M2 movements, and you'll see a lot of charts out there for those who follow technical analysis. Bitcoin certainly is correlated with the M2, at least directionally. Correlation is a technical term. You can get 100% correlation, 80% correlation, and so on and so forth. We can run the chi-square index and all that good stuff. But generally what you need to know is Bitcoin directionally following M2? And the answer is yes. And it is even following the dips and the highs, right? That's how the big hedge funds, the private money, that's how they actually, look at that glint in the dealer's eye and they say, "Oh, he's dealt me out a good card." So that's what they're looking at, right? So that's what they're looking. That's what I want you to look at. So what you're seeing in the last 5 days on Bitcoin movement is not really some kind of a rally, or you're just seeing inevitability. It's the sound of inevitability. It's that sound of that steam engine coming down the tracks. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just going to keep moving. I said this 6 months ago, and I said this 3 months ago. I mean, we got our members into Bitcoin at 80,000, 79,000, 82,000. Most of the mining deployments we did early on, sub 85,000. They custodied their Bitcoin, took loans, and now they're mining Bitcoin. They're making their own money. They're minting their own money. We're creating mints, right? Liquidity pools, tapping into those policy frameworks. At this point, my read on the policy is that just don't drive off the road. It's a clear, straight road. Unless someone actually comes out and says something terribly negative, it's just moving in the right direction. We are generally a Bitcoin-friendly federal government. We are generally a Bitcoin-friendly state government, and policies are being made. It's in the works. Laws are being passed. Bills are being proposed. Everything, just don't change the steering wheel. Keep it straight. Keep it between the lines, and you'll reach your sunset. Don't go off the side and fall into the embankment. That's the only thing the policymakers have to do. That's what we're going to tell them. And if they do that, which they are doing so far, fortunately, the money flow is going to continue to come in. And as the money flow comes in, the sentiment of the people is going to change. The retail FOMO is going to begin, and they'll all start leaning into the same direction, and the tide is going to come in. And the tide, my friends, for Bitcoin is rising. That is for sure. You are on a very good track. If you're holding Bitcoin in your wallet, which I want every single Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club member to have. If you're a Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club member and you don't have Bitcoin in your wallet, God forbid you don't have a wallet, that's not good. Call me. Call Jody. Call Nathan. Call Jan. Call your local club. We're going to help you to do that. But this is not acceptable because Bitcoin's going to go higher. We're just starting off here, okay? So when this tide is going to come in, I'm starting to see the horizon. So I don't make predictions typically. I don't want to bet horses. So what I'm going to do instead, because I keep getting asked this constantly, right? Every time, hey, what's Bitcoin? Is going to go up? Is going to go down? Is going to go sideways? What the hell is going to happen? So finally, I brought myself to sort of give you a set of bull market, bear market, and most likely scenarios. I'm not going to predict what's going to happen, but I'm going to, what they call the cost bound. I'm going to give you price. I'm going to give you price ranges that I believe, and again, take my word for what it is or not. But so far, Ben's and my track record's been pretty good on these shows. We've been informing you. We've been educating you. We have been making investments on your behalf. Many of you are making good money, on Bitcoin. You've gone up 40, 50%. You've taken loans through us. You've bought Bitcoin through us. You've invested in mining through us. You've invested in other programs that we have. And hopefully you're seeing the benefits of that. And all of that is based on the belief, and it is a belief, that Bitcoin's going to go up a certain way to a certain level. Then we can run the math, right? It all starts, any investment starts with what's called an investment thesis. If you don't have a thesis, you don't have a plan. See, if you know something's going to happen tomorrow, your question has to be, how do I utilize that knowledge, that information to do something right now that allows me to create cash flow, that allows me to multiply my money? If I see the train coming and I do nothing about it, I'm going to get run over in a bad way, right? So we are seeing this train coming where we know the price is going to go up. What can we do with it? Well, we can certainly buy it and hodl it. We can invest into it. We can create new products with our credit union that gives Bitcoin backed loans. We can create derivative products, straddles, collars, call options, covered call options, things that generate yield from Bitcoin. We can do a lot of things because Bitcoin is going to change almost everything, just like the internet changed everything. So what is the bull scenario? So you're like, Jay, cut the bull and get us to the numbers. How much is it going to be, Jay? What's it going to be? All right, so here's the bull market. If we continue to get fueled by fresh liquidity from the liquidity pools I talked about, the ETFs, the sovereign funds, the pension funds, the private funds, right? The fresh liquidity and easy money continues to pour in. The Fed expectedly cuts the rate. The M2 money supply, the ECB keeps the taps open. The M2 money supply continues to go up. And the global demand for hard assets, including gold and Bitcoin, continues to grow. We are seeing treasuries of corporate companies. So I think Ben was talking about it on his last show. I think it was like 1,800 different corporations have publicly stated at this point that they're going to buy Bitcoin and keep it in their treasury. Pension funds are trying to dip their toes and so on and so forth. So if that happens, I'm looking at, but I'm going to make predictions for the end of the year. So December 2026, right? We're going to look at a range of about 180,000 to about 260,000 by the end of the year per coin. That's sort of my bullish outlook for Bitcoin. Those of you who are bullish about Bitcoin, who totally believe those 3, 4, 5 things will happen, liquidity flows, sovereign funds, wealth funds, pension funds, that's going to come in. Fed's going to keep the M2 going, and the Powell's going to do what he needs to do before he gets fired. I think we're going to see that 175, 180 to 260,000, 250,000 range by the end of the year. The base case, which is kind of, in my mind, the most likely scenario, is money continues to come in. It's not coming in through a fire hydrant, but liquidity continues to move into Bitcoin. It's not a flood, but it's pulling capital at a modest pace. There's 1 or 2 macro scares, something about the debt ceiling, something about energy shock. There's Gulf of Hormuz is going to shut down again because Israel dropped a bomb somewhere. We'll grind higher. I mean, I don't see our base case being that it goes lower. I think we stay somewhere in the range of 110, 115 to about 175. Right now, I think today we're at 100. What are we at, Zoltan? Today, 120 or so right now? Roughly there. So I think the base case is we can anticipate staying where we kind of are, right about 115. It's not going to drop a lot if we just start keep seeing the dribs and drabs which are coming in right now. And by the way, I can sometimes tell that just by the liquidity that we get for buying Bitcoin, right? At a macro level, you can look at the M2 and how many people are buying Bitcoin on exchanges and what the exchange depletion is, which is how many coins they have left, and that kind of thing. But even within our club, every week, you guys as members send us money, right, to go and buy bulk Bitcoin, which we do. And by the way, I have a really exciting announcement at the end of this show for you guys. And I'm going to hold it. Well, make you listen to the end if you really want the good news. That's the cherry on the ice cream, as they say. I want to give you a cherry on the ice cream today. So stay put, don't go anywhere. So my base case is roughly about that 115, 110, 115 to about 170, right? I think that's what we're going to hit towards the end of the year, December, as we raise our champagne glasses with our loved ones. And then there's always the bear case. And that's also an important one. The one that the crowds and our people don't want to imagine. That's the one they don't want to look at. But we will. And we must. Because we're managing risk. And this scenario happens if inflation flares up again. Right now, Trump's tariffs have brought in essentially us into surplus, $300 billion of surplus just from the tariffs. The clown Jerome Powell said that we would actually have a inflation scare. It has not happened. It's been the other way. And for whatever reasons, if the central banks tighten up instead of easing up, that is going to cause the liquidity and the easy money flow to evaporate. That's not good. That's not good. At that point, what the market starts to do is it starts to delever, and Bitcoin, feels every cut of that knife, right? As the market delevers, as the money starts to, not flow as much, it starts to stagnate. And if it stagnates, we could look at somewhere in that back again in that 70, 75 to 100,000 range. So I think that's sort of the bear case. I think that's the absolute worst case I'm looking at. But 80, I don't think it's going to breach 80,000. And most of our members, frankly, have Bitcoin purchased at that $75,000, $80,000, right? So we're not going to feel the pain because we're going to stick with it, right? We're just going to hold it. We're just going to hold it like that rock of Gibraltar, because we have held it through so many ups and downs that I think 80 is going to be a pain point for many of us, but I don't think we're going to get there. More likely it's going to, it stayed above 100, about 100, more than 100 days, it stayed above 100. And that starts to form a floor, right? That starts to form a pretty decent floor off of which we can bounce off. And so these are the three possible futures. I think the base case is what's going to happen, but let's see where it goes, right? So yeah, a lot of you asked me that question. I wanted to address it and not just let it flap in the wind. So I did some analysis, and that's what my read is. And you guys take it for what it is. So these tides of money, these ebb and flow, what it does is it pulls in crowds. It pulls in crowds of people. And I always like the readings of Marcus Aurelius. Many of you know of him. Terrific Roman emperor, ruled a lot of the world. I think one of the largest land masses ever owned by any one ruler was under him. And he said the following, and the quote is something like, "The object of life," he wrote, "is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." Right? So here was the guy who ruled over most of the world saying the object of life is not to just be a majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. And what did he mean by that? In his day, the mobs, they clamored for bread and circuses. They wanted bread and they wanted gladiators and lions and fighting each other in circuses. Today, what are the crowds clamoring for? They're clamoring for credit and convenience. That's what they want. Like little seals flapping their flappers, They cheer when money is printed because they think that they have more money. They don't. They nod in their heads in disgust if the taxes are improved or inflation goes up, but they don't do anything about it. They just stand on the sidelines and accept their fate. All the while, the purchasing power is actually going down. The Fed continues to print money, and you know the rest of that story. But Bitcoiners, we're the early ones. Believe me, we're the early ones. We're in the early phase of this digital revolution that is happening. We have refused to be part of that spectacle, that circus, that clown show that is being orchestrated by the Fed. We already see that rot. We smell it. It smells bad. We walk away. And we keep hodling our Satoshis. And every time we hodl our Satoshis, and every time we buy a little bit of Bitcoin, it's an act of rebellion against the circus that's going on with fiat money. Truly a circus. For anyone whose eyes are open, you know it's a clown show. Literally a clown show. And Marcus Aurelius, in that same phrase, talks about a promontory. Promontory is this rock on the shores of this ocean where the ocean waves come and crash and all that white spray flies around. But the rock doesn't move. It hodls. It stands steady. It stays where it is. So on the day that Bitcoin is getting its all-time highs, I'm reminding you to be that rock. Stand on that promontory. Of course, the crowds, even now, I talk to my brother. He hasn't bought Bitcoin yet. My own brother. I'm trying to convince him. Oh, my money manager, he lives in the Hamptons. He knows what's happening. Okay, I'm sure he does. We're mocked. Just like Aristotle was mocked as a philosopher, right? Just like Galileo was mocked as an astronomer because he said the earth is not the center of the universe, right? The Bitcoiners are mocked because why? Because we dare to contradict the consensus. Okay? That's where we are. You're the only one standing on that promontory, on that rock. The tide is coming in. We are looking at the ocean rise. And yet all those people on the beach, blissfully unaware of the tsunami that's coming, joking and mocking at the people standing up on that rocky ledge going, what's wrong with you people? Guys, we are at the 3% adoption rate. And you know what happens at the 3%, which basically means if you take the total number of wallets that are on chain, divided by the total population, you're going to come up with a number called 3%. At 3%, you're called a crank. You're called a crazy. You're a crazy Bitcoiner. When that number hits 10%, you become a curiosity. Let's go look at that giraffe in that zoo. We're going to actually pay money to do that. You're a curiosity. At 30%, you're a trendsetter. It becomes a trend. Whoa, Nike is courting you now because you're a trendsetter in torn jeans and cool sneakers, and Nike is going to spend $1 billion making skateboard sneakers, right? That's a trend. And at 90%, you are the majority. You are the consensus. That's the S-curve that we're looking at. That's the S-curve we saw when I was at Cisco. The internet revolution was happening, late 90s. Andreessen had just made the web browser. We had 3% adoption. Today we are at 93% adoption. From 3%, you're a crank, to 10%, you're a curiosity, to 30%, you're the trend, to 93%, you're the consensus. That's where we're going. You see, but this road is going to be littered with a lot of jeering, with a lot of people going, you're crazy. But understand something. Every movement, every revolution, and this is a digital revolution, needs a lever. You know, what's a lever? It's the point where you can apply pressure and move the earth. You can see the world shift. For us, that lever, isn't just Bitcoin. It's the infrastructure, it's the ecosystem that we are building with Bitcoin to work in the real world. Everything will change with Bitcoin, just like everything changed with the internet. We changed the way we buy, we changed the way we watch entertainment, we changed the way we listen to music, we changed the way we do customer support, we changed the way we did supply chain. You think you're going to have contracts and that settle in 10 days, 15 days? That's so old world. With Bitcoin and digital money, everything will change. You know, we bought this credit union in El Salvador. It's not a coincidence. It's the first hybrid treasury in the world that we're building. I mean, literally, people talk about Bitcoin. Look around. Find me a bank that takes Bitcoin deposits today. None. We will be the first bank in the world by October rolling out an integrated wallet in with our normal fiat treasury. It'll allow Bitcoin deposits to happen. It'll be on our balance sheet. The same ledger, the same vault. This is revolutionary. That's the lever which I can put and move the earth with, right? We, the Bitcoin Ben Club members, are using Bitcoin as a weapon, as a lever to change the world and hopefully change the world for better. This credit union is a launchpad for our financial autonomy. We're going to build new derivative products with Bitcoin collateral, bypassing the old credit system and credit check tyranny that we are subjected to today. Small businesses will get funded in USDT and our own stable coins within days, not months. Transactions will take seconds, not weeks. And the transaction fees will be much less than what these banks offer you. This is just one example where we have gone into financial services, where we are using Bitcoin as our lever to move the world. We have gone into mining. What is mining? We are mining our own Bitcoin. It's our mint. We have millions of dollars of rigs around the world that are minting Bitcoin. Eventually, banks will have their own mints. That's where the word minting money comes from. We are minting our own money through our mining rigs and systems. That's the mint. The bank, the financial services, the credit union we have is the distribution capability. And all of the different partnerships we have is where the loans will go. Whether we do it with beef, we change it to for real estate, we move into food scarcity, we move into other areas of giving loans using Bitcoin. The Ferrari guys know that. They're already selling Ferraris with Bitcoin. I just met a whole bunch of developers in Panama who are selling multi-million-dollar apartments using Bitcoin. It's priced in Bitcoin. Hey, 3 Bitcoin gets you this luxury apartment. Okay? So this is already happening. So there's a method to this madness. We have our own mint because we are mining Bitcoin. We don't have to even rely on an exchange eventually when we mine enough Bitcoin to buy our. That's right there, our treasury. We're creating the world's first decentralized central bank. And we have our own financial institution to distribute it, right? So at the same time, look at the energy. our mining operations are hashing away. They're using energy. We're creating energy infrastructure. We're supporting the energy infrastructure. So the real magic here is connecting the dots from mining in Dubai and Iowa to funding ranchers in Texas through the mint and through the treasury and through the credit union, where we are converting energy into hard money. We're taking the Bitcoin rigs and using that Bitcoin as collateral, bypassing processors, bypassing banks, bypassing the middlemen who bleed the ranchers dry, for example, right? The credit union becomes the clearinghouse. The mining rigs become the mint. And all of the real estate deals we're going to do and fund our hotel. And the granary in Texas, as we fund these farmers, those are going to become wealth creation. We have now integrated Bitcoin and architecture and economy into a new world of finance. As we see the collapse of the old world, as we see the collapse of the old system, we are building one that thrives in this new space. Zoltan, let's break for a quick word from our sponsors. I'm going to write back, and I've got some really exciting, stay with us. I've got some really exciting news for you guys. Over to you. For years, banks promised innovation, but they gave us fees and friction and fine prints. Today, all that changes. Introducing Private Key Bank from Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club, the world's first Bitcoin native credit union. Rebuilt from the ground up in the heart of El Salvador, a place where your Bitcoin isn't just stored, it grows. Earn 4% interest paid in Bitcoin, compounded, secured, and accessible. No middlemen, no hidden games, just your money working for you. Send funds across borders instantly, without SWIFT codes, without currency conversions. Pay anyone, anywhere, with a tap of a finger. This isn't banking as usual. This is freedom, beautifully engineered. The future of finance is finally here. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. So you are the 3%. I've talked about the Noah's Ark today. I talked about the promontory. You are standing on that solid rock, that granite rock, with Bitcoin in your wallet. The tide is coming in. The little waves trickling in are becoming bigger swells, and soon those swells will become a tsunami, and the world will go from 3% adoption to 93% adoption. You're going to be standing on that rock already. You're up on the ledge. And as the tide comes in, all those people on the beach frolicking away with their fiat money are going to scramble. They're going to want to come onto this rock, and there won't be space for everybody. It's going to get crowded. Okay? I want you to keep that in mind. So every time you think about ever wanting to sell your Bitcoin, get off the rock, just think about what I just told you. The titles come in. You're already there. You're already ahead of the curve. We're going to go from 3% adoption to 93%. You're not just listening to this. What you're hearing is a forecast. You're here seeing the blueprint. And when that crowd runs in for shelter, the same ones that have been mocking the Bitcoiners, you'll be watching the tide rise, smiling at the sounds of the crowds hunting for circuses and bread Okay, so that you're in a very good place. Celebrate this moment as Bitcoin gets an all-time high. Now, once you start to see historically as Bitcoin rises, it has an effect of pulling the greater market. So in fact, yesterday, I think we hit like $4.3 trillion of the total crypto market. Now, of course, Bitcoin is the dominant part of it. It's about 60% of that market. But we are seeing the rising tide lifts all boats. We're seeing ETH, a lot of action in ETH. In fact, a lot of our members, they'll move a lot of Bitcoin into ETH, get that price movement, and move it right back to the safety of the shore. That greed and fear index is spinning right around, right? We're seeing Solana is going to start to see some movement as well, as do all the other altcoins, which is frankly noise. It's not signal, but Bitcoin is truly a store of value, right? It's digital gold. It's a solid, heavy asset that you want to put a majority of what you do. But at the same time, as this evolution happens towards an ecosystem built around Bitcoin, you will need contracts. You'll need smart contracts. You'll need structures that allow transactions to happen in a manner consistent with the digital revolution. And ERC20 and ETH is very well geared for those type of contracts, for creating derivative products. Bitcoin is a heavier machine. ETH allows that to happen. There is a whole new economy that is going to evolve. Solana allows those kind of things to happen more efficiently, less cost. If you remember the internet age, again, I bring you back to that. The first group of companies that made money were the Ciscos of the world, the Nortels of the world, the 3Coms of the world, which were building the actual heavy switches, the infrastructure of the internet, right? That's the Bitcoin. But then the next wave in the early 2000s, which are the companies that made money? The companies that made money were the ones that built services on top of that foundation. The Googles of the world came to being. Facebook came into being. All of the big software companies that sat on that infrastructure, right? That leveraged that infrastructure were that next wave of money. And then you saw on top of that. So on top of Facebook and on top of Google sat the next layer 3 services. Oh, Google AdWords. Marketing companies evolved that could get you more customers. It was all based on Google optimization. You had Facebook. Oh, I could reach out to Facebook. There are so many millions of members over here. We can advertise to them. We can market to them. We can get sales through Facebook, right? So that was the next layer built on that. And those companies did very well. And then the next layer up and so on and so forth. So any evolution of technology, of ecosystems evolves in phases. I'm now telling you, and I talked to Ben this morning at length about it, and he said, Jay, we're going to start to create a structure at our club where we will allow ETH and SOL to be purchased through our bulk purchase program, which is no KYC. Yes, guys, you heard it right. Till now, we have restricted ourselves purely to Bitcoin. But today I'm announcing to you that we are going to start buying ETH and Solana for our members through the same program that we have been buying Bitcoin. We're not going to do any other altcoins yet, but these are the two that we feel comfortable about. We manage the risk, and I think this is going to be amazing. So just this is a big announcement. Ben is going to talk more at length about these two technologies, ETH and Solana, tomorrow on his show. But today I want to announce that those are as a part of our Bitcoin bulk purchase, bulk no KYC purchase program, which many of you have taken great advantage of. We have bought millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin for our members. We are now going to start buying ETH and Solana. And for that, you can continue to send us the dollars into our bank account, wire transfers. But you can also send in Bitcoin, and we can convert that into ETH for you. You can send us USDT. If you have USDT, stable coins that you want to convert into Bitcoin, Solana, or ETH, right? So we are now, as of next week, our cycle starts on Wednesday. So starting next Wednesday, if you want, you can start putting in orders for your ETH purchases and your Solana purchases. Don't ask me for any other tokens for right now, okay? I'm not going to do it. There's Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana, and we will be able to take your deposits in fiat and stable coins, as well as in Bitcoin, if you want us to convert it into any of those other asset classes, okay? So this is a big announcement. This is going to get a lot of interest from many of our members. We are revving up and preparing all the accounting sheets and everything else so that we can offer you this service, no KYC. That's the big announcement for today. I see I've almost run out of time. It's great to be with all of you again. We're going to keep giving you updates on what the club is doing. We have some very exciting things happening. Our clubs are firing on all cylinders. We have Sarasota, we have Boston, we have Nashville, we have St. Louis is making great strides. Dallas has a bunch of big events this weekend. I'm flying out to Dallas today at 3 o'clock. And we have a large event there, a meetup on Friday night, followed by a Bitcoin and beef symposium on Friday. On Thursday night is the meetup. We have our Las Vegas event doing some amazing things, including planning some poker events where there are going to be high rollers and so on and so forth. We are planning activities across the board, and we are probably going to have another 4 clubs open this year, getting us to a total of 10 clubs, which was our target. So we're looking at Washington. We're looking at, of course, West Palm. We're looking at Scottsdale and potentially another location. We have looked at Indian Wells, Atlanta. So clubs are coming. Ben has been on a roll. He's just opening new clubs, and we're creating a whole set of new programs that'll continue to support and enhance the value of your membership. When you pay that $49, for membership as a private member of our club, that's just a base case, right? You are exposed now to so many amazing programs that you can't get anywhere else on the planet. That's just the bottom line. No one else has access to a bank which will take Bitcoin. No one else has access to mining, which we're buying rigs across the world and deploying them for you, right? And making you cash. Every month I'm sending out checks to our members who are making money with our programs. We're getting you hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of loans with which you're buying Bitcoin and basically making a car payment, right? So we're opening up investment opportunities for you that are not available anywhere else except to our private members. So the value of this membership is huge. Every week, Sherpa and Heidi they're holding classes. You're getting educated on how to create a cold wallet, how to avoid the scams. We are educating you. We are teaching you. You're coming into the clubs. You're getting exposed to symposiums and seminars. You're going to be invited to exclusive events. We'll be doing exclusive events with senators and congressmen, and you'll have the opportunity to come and shake their hands and participate in that dialogue, in policy making, in sharing your thoughts on how Bitcoin is going to reshape the world as we know it. I love you all. Have a great day. God bless America.
Tired of jumping through hoops to buy Bitcoin? Frustrated with endless paperwork and invasive identity checks? Introducing Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club's loan program. No KYC required. Say goodbye to the hassle and hello to freedom. Borrow up to $250,000 at as little as 7% interest. Join our community and take control of your financial future. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where privacy meets opportunity. Connect with like-minded individuals and grow together. Visit us today and unlock your $250,000 Bitcoin loan. Your journey to financial freedom starts here.